Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with veteran and award-winning LA-based jazz singer and actress Jan Daley. She opened up about her new 2023 album, The Way of a Woman, her impressive career, the future, and so much more. She is adored for her singular magic of making what's classic contemporary again. Known well as a multi-talented and truly a best-kept secret in the entertainment world. Essentially, she takes the iconic sound of traditional jazz and reinvents it for the modern audiences worldwide to enjoy. She broke into television from an early age and appeared on multiple iconic mainstream shows like The Tonight Show, The Dean Martin Show, The Merv Griffin Show, The David Frost Show, and being around the likes of legends like Jimmy Stewart, Mickey Rooney, George Burns, Jack Benny, Bob Hope, and opening up for a lot of comedians. She's got a great, flavor-rich story. Enjoy.
This is Joe Domino. How are you?
I'm good. Where are you coming from, anyway?
I'm in Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, Kansas City. Okay, I did a show down in Branson. Loved it. It's beautiful out there.
So, hey, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out to the program today. I appreciate it.
You bet. You bet. All right, we will proceed.
Absolutely. So before we get into your latest album and your world of music, I want to know, how did you survive COVID? You know, that did certain things to everyone, but especially performers out there. How did you survive it? How has it changed the way that you conduct business and do things now?
You know, actually, it turned out to be a blessing in that I had been putting off a writing project, which is about my father, who I never got to meet. He was in World War II, was shot down picking up POWs after the war, and it had been on my bucket list, and so I started writing on this project, which I hope will either be a movie, I think it'll be a limited series, and everybody I've showed it to was saying, oh my God, this is a great story, blah, blah, blah. And so it gave me that chance. All my concerts were canceled, as everyone else's. And that's what I did during COVID, and it saved me. It saved me from, really realizing I'm just sitting here writing every day. And it was kind of a pleasure, actually, of getting this and going through photos and letters I had never seen my entire life. My mother remarried, and we never spoke about him, and I was like, well, how did I get to be who I was? I'm so different from my mom. And when you grow up with only one, half of your parents, you don't know why you do certain things. I said, I'm a ham, I was creative. And so I didn't get into these boxes until both my mom and my stepfather passed, and I pulled out the first picture, and my father standing in this pose that was like, oh my God, there I am, And so that's how I got through COVID, exploring and learning, about World War II and what they did and what all these soldiers.
Now that the world's opening up and, we're kind of entering a post-COVID world, how does it feel to have new material and kind of this new horizon to look at as an artist?
Just like out of the blue, a month ago, some people from the Women's Songwriter Hall of Fame called me and said, we'd love to have you be a part of this, and we'd love to honor you and induct you into this Hall of Fame. And I'm just blown away. So sometimes in life you go along and you think, oh boy, I've got to do this and this, and nothing seems to be happening. And then something out of the blue like this hits you. And I'm very fortunate to be inducted. And that's coming up in June 24th. In Washington, D.C. So, of course, we're rallying and jumping on this and then releasing the official, they've made my song, Way of a Woman, the official single for the organization. So I'm overwhelmed and excited and, trying to take my 60 videos, and they go, could you make those just 2 minutes, the entire, So I've been working on that, and that's keeping me quite busy.
So let's get to the beginnings of your life and how how did jazz get in you? How did this desire to sing, kind of where you were born and raised?
I was actually born in Los Angeles, and I'm a native. There are very few of us here, but I grew up in a small town up in the foothills, and pretty regular life. My mother loved the big band, so I would hear this music, and she loved Broadway, and so I would hear that. And really, jazz came later in my life. I mean, I always preferred the American Songbook because we had great writers and beautiful melodies, and that attracted me. And so from early on, I started listening, and Ella Fitzgerald was amazing, and but a lot of the singers that I followed they were already in movies. And so that's how, like Doris Day and Rosemary Clooney and Lena Horne and all of that, I just was in awe. And boy, that's what I wanted to do, So it started really young. I mean, I think my first solo was in church, and I was 11. So I started pretty early and honed in. But then a little bit later, like maybe 2 years later after that, actually, no, I think it was 12, I sidelined and I was a swimmer, and my coach really believed in me, and I began to train for the Olympics. So I kind of went over in a new direction and did that for a couple of years. And what was great is being an athlete, no matter what athletic sport you're in, you learn discipline, and you learn if you lose, you get back up and you do your thing. And boy, in this business, that is so important. And I'm still around, as the song says, I'm still standing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about the very first live show you saw that really either mystified you and made you want to listen more, or made you want to be on that stage.
Wow. I was already in the business. I don't think, being kind of in a remote area, I didn't really see live shows. I think maybe the first show I saw was in the downtown Los Angeles, and it was a Broadway show. And I think, I don't even remember the name of the Broadway show. I mean, I was mesmerized by that, but I didn't get to see concerts and stuff like that because I was really young. And there were clubs in Los Angeles, I was too young to get into. But I got the bug in junior high and did a couple of musicals then. And then it wasn't until college that my music professor really took a liking to my voice, and I sang for a lot of things. And then I got into a rock and roll band and quit in my junior year and went on the road. And that was it. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing, and I had no contacts whatsoever, but I had a positive, outlook on life. And I just thought, well, I'm going to do this, and then I'll come back to LA after the tour and go to the Musicians Union, and they gave me a name of a manager, and that kind of started it all. So it wasn't really, I was already touring when the 60s were wild and crazy. And, that's how it all began for me. And in those days, female singers, if you weren't in a band, you were opening for famous comedians. And that was my start. And I was all over the map in America, opening for, Don Rickles, Jack Benny, Bob Hope, and those kind of things.
So I guess that's another part of my question here is that you've been fortunate to be on so many of these iconic shows that swayed so much opinion and brought pop culture to people, and you're around comedians and all these other people. So my question to you is this: what did you learn from being around these iconic shows, performers, legends, and luminaries that you in turn use to teach younger people, performers, artists that you would get around?
You know, I think the minute you stand on stage and perform, you learn. And when you travel, I mean, I would open, then I would go out in the audience, and then I would watch them and how they react. And I think it's just by osmosis kind of that you take on what you're seeing and what you're learning. And I love speaking at colleges and you know, talking to students and young performers. But I mean, I think just doing it, there's nothing like it. I mean, you can learn in college, but until you really perform in front of an audience, it's just, you know, it's inside you, but you don't learn until you really get out there. And so I do tell, you know, many people and many young people, you just have to get out there. You know, if you're just a songwriter, then you need to find songwriters in your town. And I'm sure there are, you know, songwriters' nights and things like that. And if you're a singer, you need to find a group of musicians and start singing. And I learned, you know, so many things, but it all like kind of just by osmosis, like I said, it just kind of permeates your mind and your body and your music just by watching.
You know, the thing that's impressive about you, there's a lot of parts of you that remind me of someone along the lines of Marilyn May. And the thing that gets me about performers that have been around this long is that I don't know that that's exemplified as much as it should be. There's a lot that goes into this. There's a lot of people that don't make it to certain places, and there's certainly very rare people like you that have been around for decades and decades and can harken back to an earlier era. So my question to you is this: how have you consistently stayed relevant and evolved in what a lot of people would consider a very rough business to do that in?
Right. I always say that there are a lot of wonderful, talented people, but you, being an actress as well, you learn that you're not going to get every part, you know, and you have to bounce back. And I think it's the people that learned how to do that. And that's how, and basically, I must tell you that for 20 years, I walked away from a music career of touring. I had an album and that I was supposed to promote, and I had a 2-year-old, and she was my miracle baby. And I always get emotional because I was never supposed to have children, and at 23 I had cancer, and they said 1 in a million. Well, I took that 1 in a million, and anyway, long story short, I was flying back and forth from Nashville doing this album, and we had a celebration, a family, and my daughter walked right past me, and she didn't know who I was. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I said,
you're fine.
Yeah, I can't do this, you know. God gave me this miracle baby, and I have to walk away. You know, after all these years, it's kind of funny. I still break up, but I had, you know, I mean, I walked away because I knew I couldn't do that. I continued to act. I continued. Then I had just begun to write songs, and so being around musicians and constantly going then to concerts and learning from that and being on showcases for songwriters and stuff. I chose those jobs, but it developed my writing in the meantime and my ear. And so when my daughter went to college, I realized that I knew what I wanted to go back to. And when I got back in the business, you're talking about relevant, I mean, it had changed so much that I had no idea where I could go or what I could do. I knew what I could do, but, where I fit in. And so I kind of, went into cabaret. I learned about cabaret and that had voices like I did. I'm not a Broadway voice, that's for sure. But it really took a while to figure out where I fit in and how to make an income out of singing. And my acting really helped in that I did a lot of commercials, and that supplied a lot of things. But I did those commercials that had that were singing in them, but I was visual. I was, also on camera, and that helped me open up doors. And basically, I think just listening to what was going on in the music business and going to concerts still made me want to. I mean, I've written from R&B and sang R&B to Broadway to house music, which I did with Jimmy Webb. And it just, I was writing everything. I'd listen to it and I thought, I can write that, I don't know how great it was, but, it did well. And I think listening, watching, you can't beat that to be relevant in this industry. And so that's kind of what I did. And now we're in full swing, and some people from Motown found me through the Grammy organization and said, "Where have you been?" I said, "Well, I was a mother for 20 years. So I always tell mothers or anyone, young or old, it's never too late, you're never too young or old to realize your dreams. And that's kind of my motto, definitely, from having a #1 traditional jazz album a couple years ago. So, if you just hang in there long enough, something's going to, stick on the wall.
For sure. So what was the first stage or role that you had that you thought, wow, I can't believe this is happening?
Oh, well, it really was that #1 album. As I told, ABC was kind of interviewing me about a song that I wrote, and I just said, I didn't even know I was a jazz singer, which is kind of fun, because I guess my voice really lent itself to jazz songs, and that was, I remember laying on the floor crying because I just couldn't believe that it was happening, and that I had 2 songs, and then we took out the next year, and we brought out my Christmas album, which was a #4, and rode right through January even, called Home for Christmas, and a couple of my songs are on that. And, I had a different take on Christmas songs, and it was very well received. So it has got me, given me confidence that, well, I guess I'm doing the right thing. And I finally found my song. I finally found my voice and what songs lend or my songs fit into it. And so that's kind of how I found myself.
So of all of the facets that go into being a professional singer, what is it that you enjoy the most? You got the live, you got the recordings, you got all of these things in between, but what is it that motivates you and every day gets you going in being who you are?
I try to now, after COVID, I try to sing live, like anything. Oh, you have a birthday? Okay. No, but I'm saying it's that energy. It's just like when we were doing Zoom, it was like frustrating, but I didn't realize what an entertainer gets from the audience, and that's this energy, and it pushes you further. You even imagine when you're practicing at home. I loved acting when it was on stage. and not as technical as television acting, and I loved sitting down and just creating a song from scratch. But I think the live entertaining is what I love the best.
So you've been around a lot of stages. You've seen a lot of people in your life. But if you could go back in time and see somebody that you never witnessed live, who would it be? Say, time machine, where are you going, and who would you love to see live?
Oh, gosh. I would say, like Ella Fitzgerald live. Doris Day she never toured, only when she was starting her career. And unfortunately, her manager, ex-husband, gave her these little flimsy songs, and yet she was very well received in her early career. Was great. But Lady Day, I would have loved to see. She was so spontaneous as well as Ella.
So I know. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you were.
No.
It kind of broke up there a little bit, Dan. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No problem. So you can ask me your next question.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So I know you're far from being done, but when you look back on your life and everything that you've done up to this point, what are you the proudest of?
Probably my daughter, and now granddaughter. But this last album, I think I'm very proud of, and because I have 6 of my own songs on it, and the jazz community really they love these songs, and I had no idea that they would be that well received. But probably that. However, there was a song that I did in my 20s, mid-20s, that while I was having cancer, I literally was in the hospital 3 days before I was to fly to Rome to record a title song for a movie. And I just said, "How do we do this, doctor?" Because he said, "Well, you should, go home and rest for 2 weeks." I said, "Oh no, I'm going to Rome." And I think I'm as I look back now, I'm proud to say, "No, I'm going. How do we make this happen?" And because then it was later nominated for an Academy Award. So I think sometimes people say things to you and you just have to stand your ground.
For sure. So as a proverbial performer, whether you're on the stage singing or you're acting, when you look on your life and everything you've done up to this point, what would you love your legacy to be?
I think that of never giving up your dream, and that you're never too old, to reach those dreams. And I'm reaching dreams that I haven't even dreamed of now. And I think that would be my legacy, that, hey, she hung in there for years. And, that's my inspiration that I give to other people.
So let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight and you ran into, say, the 20-year-old version of yourself, and you could give that younger version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom that you've gained through all the roads you've been down, all the things that you've accomplished and overcome, what would you tell your young version?
I would say, probably, again, don't give up. It's only a moment. This too will pass. Don't be swayed by other people, and most of all, be yourself. In the beginning, and a lot of performers do this, in the beginning, you try and look like somebody that you admire or sing like someone you admire. And I think once you find your own sound and your own look, I think that's what I would tell myself in the 20s, in my 20s.
So because for the purposes more specifically of us being a jazz radio show, I'm curious, why do you love jazz?
Well, the improvisation, of being, I think that's what I love the most, in that depending upon, sometimes you don't have your own band, and what they're playing, it's that moment. It's that jazz moment that, it's, you fool yourself, you surprise yourself, and you walk off and you go, wow, I sang that, or, oh, I did surprise myself. And I think it's that, I don't know if it's from God or whatever, it's from that little thing called the heart and the soul that pushes you to, plateaus you've never, reached before. So that's, I love jazz in that, and I love to watch musicians who are just monsters in that improv kind of thing.
So, Jan, everyone out there has a perception of you. We have all these pockets of people that exist in our orbit, family, friends, fans, colleagues, but you ultimately control your life. You lead it. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Golly. I think I'm a kind person, and, it is true. I wrote a song called The Real Person, and I think we look at the outer shell, but I think, I'm friendly to people. I like people, and I see through their persona sometimes, and I think people are surprised how open I am with them. So I think people need to be more kind to each other, and I've learned that through, bad experiences or just stupidity that, you have to treat people as you would like them to treat you.
So if anyone out there wants to pick up The Way of the Woman or anything in your catalog and to find out about live shows, anything pertaining to your world, where is the best place for them to go?
Well, I love them to come to jandaley.com, and that's Daley. And because it's kind of a learning thing. You can hear and see videos, and but you can download anything, and there's no tax. And if they're buying CDs, which not many people do anymore, I'll personally, autograph it for them, and so I love them to come to my website first before. I mean, as artists, we just don't make any money unless we're out there 360 days a week, because of Spotify and all these platforms. They pay us 0.001 cent when it's streamed, and most people don't know that. And if it's something you've not written, you make zero. I mean, I get 50 pages of Spotify and I make $43.22. It's unbelievable how the music has changed, and how artists really, if you're not able to perform, or especially during COVID and stuff, it was pretty hard on a lot of people. And so, go see jandaley.com, and you'll be entertained. There's a lot of stuff on it, and a lot of stuff I'm proud of, and a lot of stuff that's funny of past performances and stuff. But you can also go to YouTube, Jan Daley Music, and see. I have 60 videos. Trying now to put that all into 2 minutes, which keeping me quite busy.
Well, I can vouch for the fact that I've been to your website, and it's full of flavor and all kinds of content. So absolutely, everyone out there, go to the website. But Jan, it's been an honor to speak with you. Thank you for taking time out to open up about your life and your story and the new music. I really appreciate it. Best of luck with everything.
Well, thank you so much, Joe. It's been a pleasure, and have a great summer. and hopefully I have a new project, so hopefully we'll talk again.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest singers and actors and actresses in Los Angeles, New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Jan for her time, energy, and for her story. If you want to hear more Neon Jazz interviews, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us at YouTube, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to theneonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.